I have a new guest with me here. This is our latest episode of Ada Angels, and he is going to share with us one of his videos that he's done. I'm super excited. So yeah, take it away.
Hello, hi, my name's Andrew. I'm the stake pool operator for Ad ASTRA, and we try to contribute to the Cardano community by making these short videos about different aspects of Cardano. And I just wanted to show just a minute of my latest video, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll just do a screen share. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cardano is a very powerful system. So it's significantly more stuff can go into the transaction than in Bitcoin. So we created a new model for this called the extended UTXO model. It allows us to have spending policies and multi-asset, and smart contracts, and all these things. And DSLs could even bring in regulatory dimensions. And embedding Prism in means we can put identity native on chain. And that's a very sophisticated transaction. And the base ledger can perform very high speed for these things. Ouroboros is a very efficient protocol. So you can potentially have hundreds of these things going on every second. But then when you start stratifying these transactions, you're going to notice that big pools of them are low value transactions. Big pools of them are occurring frequently, but collectively are only talking about maybe 5%, 10% of the total value of the ledger. So a lot of turnaround, but they're just bloat. So it makes more sense to batch those and put those into a different layer of the system and allow then for those things to enjoy acceleration. So you can do a lot more of them, the fees go down, they get instant finality. And that's kind of the concept of Lightning. So what we did is we just took the ideas of Lightning and we said, can we have native smart contract support for this and build it so that you can have as many channels as you want and they can all communicate with each other, route with each other. And every time you add it, you...
yeah, that's just it. That's just the first minute of my latest video on Hydra. There's 2 more minutes to that video. And we've made about 8 videos similar to this, and each one deals with a different aspect of Cardano. There's one on Singularity Net. There's 2 on Singularity Net. There's another one on blockchain for social good and what Cardano is trying to do in Africa. So that's that's basically what we're trying to do. But I'm planning to make more of these videos about other subjects to do with Cardano. It seems like there's like an infinite amount of videos that you could do about Cardano because there's so many things going on.
Wow, no, that video is amazing. And you put all that together yourself? Like what got you into making these kind of videos?
Well, I've got a background in filmmaking. So I studied filmmaking in university. I've got a bachelor's in film and screen media and a master's in film directing from Edinburgh. And after I started up my stake pool, I just thought about ways to contribute to the community. And because I saw that like the pools that were doing very well were the ones that were doing things for the community. And so just thinking about what I could bring to the table, I just thought about these short clips. Because I heard about Cardano like recently, only in March of this year. And what I did was I just started watching like hours and hours of Cardano content. And what I would find in this is I would find like these short little segments of like 2-minute, 3-minute long that were just perfect, that just summed up everything. It summed up things really well. But these little segments were kind of hidden. And they were hidden in these like long presentations. They were hidden in like the one that we just watched, that was hidden in an interview from 6 months ago. And I think the interview went for an hour long. So what I try to do is to try and get these little short segments and to add music to it and to add visuals to it to try and help the viewer form stronger associations with what's being said. And and just try to do more of those things.
That's great. So like, so what exactly is your, like you say you have a catalyst proposal. So how is this part of your catalyst proposal?
Yeah, so the catalyst proposal, it's just basically for more videos like this. And even if I don't get the votes, I will continue to make more videos like this. But with the support from Catalyst, I'll be able to just make the videos better. and I'll also be able to make the videos more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And because these videos are very time consuming, they
Sure.
take me a weekend to make. So I basically have to clear out a weekend and say, okay, that this is what I'm doing on Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, so the Catalyst proposal is just it's called advertising Cardano,
Mm-hmm.
and it went through the review process, and they give you a score.
Mm-hmm.
And my score through the review process was, I think, 3.64 out of 5.
Hmm.
So it was okay compared to, like, I mean, the medium the
Mm-hmm.
mean
Mm-hmm.
score that you get on that Catalyst. But yeah, if anybody's out there and the voting hasn't started yet, or I mean, voting has started, but if you haven't voted for anything yet, please look out for advertising Cardano,
Yeah.
and please give me a vote.
Yeah, like I'll definitely include all that information in our description. So I'll include the link to the proposal, the link to your channel. The video is beautiful, like really, really well done.
Thanks. Thank you.
So yeah, aside from that, like I want to get to know you a little bit more as a operator and your stake pool itself. So like where did you grow up?
I grew up in Fiji, so well, I was born in a country beside Fiji called Tuvalu, and
Okay.
Tuvalu is a very small Pacific island nation. The population's under 11,000 people,
Wow.
so it's a very small country. And the landmass, if you put the landmass together, it's 26 square kilometers.
Mm.
Sorry, I don't know what that is in miles. I
It's okay.
think maybe 11 square miles, but
Mhm.
it's a very small
It's
country. It's
small.
the third smallest country in the world.
Mhm.
That's where my father met my mom. My mom's from Tuvalu, and my dad's from Scotland. And similar to you, I mean, you had uh, like a military
Mhm.
upbringing, so you had to move around a lot.
Mhm.
Well, my dad was an economist. He wasn't a military guy, but he was an economist, and so that meant we had to move around to a lot of developing countries.
Mhm.
So growing up, I lived I lived in Tuvalu. I lived in Bangladesh for 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
And we kind of moved around from Scotland. I lived 1 year in Melbourne when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and then in when I was 11, just about to turn 12, we moved to Fiji. And so Fiji was basically where I did my middle school and my high school,
Mhm.
and so I feel very much part of the Fijian community
Mhm.
and Fijian society.
Mhm. No, I feel the same because I was telling you earlier, like we moved around a lot. Even though I was born here in Korea, we did a lot of my dad's like military career in America, but we settled back to Korea when I was about 13. So I do the same as you. I have strong association with Korea as my home because that's
Mm,
when I started my middle school and high school. And I left to go to university, but then I returned because
yeah,
I wanted to come back home, you know. So
yeah,
it just felt so it sounds weird, like felt foreign, just it's not right. I didn't want to live in America.
yeah.
um one of the strangest things, like I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but when I lived in Seoul, it's a big city, so you have like metro and buses, and
Hmm.
you don't need to have a car really, and if you do, that's
Yeah.
great, you can travel around, but it's not necessary. You can walk to a
Hmm.
lot of places, the market, there's all the things around you. When I was in
Yeah.
America going to school, I had to drive to school, and it was like a 30-minute drive to school, and that was
Wow.
normal or short, you know, to
Yeah.
people. And I would say like, but it's so long, I waste so much time in the car.
Yeah.
Going to the market, going to eat, everything is at least 20 minutes each way.
Hmm.
That's when I started learning to utilize that time for learning, with
Yeah.
listening to podcasts and whatever. It's like wasted time sitting in the car, you know. um, so I mean, like as I've mentioned before, like I don't really watch TV, so I have to fill my time with other things. And I like music. I mean, I'm really
Hmm.
into like hi-fi, and I have like a full stereo and I love it. So I do that instead of TV. But if I don't listen to music in the car, then I'm listening to podcasts and things. So,
Nice.
but
Nice.
yeah,
What podcasts are you listening to now?
right now I'm listening to like other probably MIT open courseware
Mm,
stuff. So
nice.
more about blockchain, more about how it all works, because it's all very still, I'm learning a lot, you know,
Yeah.
and like the more I learn, the more I'm able to kind of understand how it all works, but I'm by no means like an expert in any of it, and I don't claim to be ever, but
Yeah.
I just the more that I learn about it, the more I can talk about it and see the applications for it, you know. So
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
it's hard.
I'm
It's
listening
hard.
to a Roger Deakins podcast. Roger Deakins, he's a cinematographer from oh, well, he made so many movies, but like Blade Runner 2049 was one of
Mhm.
his movies.
Mhm.
Sicario was another one that and he has on other cinematographers and other like producers and directors and things like that, and they just talk about filmmaking stuff. It's all really interesting.
Yeah.
So I recommend that if you, I think it's called Team Deacons.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. So like you just learn different perspectives and different like skills or tips from the different filmmaker styles. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's all very similar to what they teach you in film school, like the
Mhm.
basic gist of it, which is just keep your film simple and don't try to do things that you can't actually do. Like, you know, don't take on something that you can't do, and just things like that, just little useful
So
things.
it's always good advice. Don't bite off more than you can chew, right? So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, so talking about blockchain, like what about
Mhm.
blockchain inspires you?
Um, well, I really like Cardano's approach to it, which was to sort of focus on helping the third world and
Mhm.
helping like the African nations. And growing up in Fiji, which is it is considered a developing nation,
Mhm.
I could definitely see how blockchain technology can help people in the developing world. I wrote an article for it on Cardano Journal. Basically talked about it, but basically like in Fiji, when you have a bank account there, they charge you like $2 if you want to withdraw from over the counter, and they
Mhm.
charge you 40 cents if you want to withdraw from one of their ATMs.
Mhm.
And you also can't, like, they have like these they make it kind of difficult to withdraw larger amounts of money. You have to sort of ask permission from the bank to withdraw your own money.
Mhm.
And growing up, you think of that as normal because that's the way things are when you're growing up. But
Mhm.
going to other countries, I see that that's not quite the case. It's not the case in Germany. It's not the case in Australia.
Mhm.
Um, and and then when I come across blockchain, it just makes sense. To because money's sort of transitioning to become all digital anyway.
Mhm.
So why not it be digital but on a blockchain, and it be as easy as sending an email from me to you and as quick as sending an email from me to you,
Right.
and yeah, and a sort of borderless sort of way.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like there's restrictions in America too. So even though we live
Hmm.
in Korea, my husband and I actually work for United States. So we're
Hmm.
working with the U.S. government here in Korea.
Yeah.
Um, but we just had a death in the family. My mother-in-law passed away, and we're having to
I'm
deal with
sorry.
that. Thank you. I mean, like we're working through it. But the bank systems are ridiculous, and it's even like
Mm,
ignited my passion even more towards this,
mm,
like getting away from this centralized banking system that just isn't for the people, you know,
hmm.
because they're so tight and restricting on what we can do when our mother has passed away and we can't do anything to settle her assets or anything like that, because even though we have legal rights to it, we are
Yeah.
named executor of the estate, but we have to wait for them to clear all of it.
Mm,
My husband was there, but we live in Korea, so how long is he supposed to wait there to be cleared to do all these things, right?
yeah.
And then you're talking
Yeah.
about transferring money and being restricted on amounts. When I was
Mm,
working with the accounts, I could only transfer maybe like $10,000 a day. Like
hmm.
that was my
Yeah.
limit, you know. And
Yeah.
and in Korea, there's different limits on your amounts that you can move, and you can apply for those different limits um, based on your level of customer in the bank, I guess. Like if you're a longtime customer, you get more allowances, you know. So
Mhm.
when I first opened my account, I was only allowed like $3,000 a day, and then you move up to 5,000. So there's like different tiers
Yeah.
based on like the time that you're in the bank as a customer.
Yeah.
I think my mom, she's longer in the bank system, so she can move almost not a limit. She can do what she wants, but it's it's based on time, I think, and how long you're a customer. So I think that's interesting as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, different countries, different rules, but I feel like America is definitely very restrictive in
Yeah.
their banking policies, and it depends on bank too, because my mom had different banks, like several, and Bank of America is the worst one. So
Okay.
I will speak out against them and their policies. I'm so
Yeah.
angry at them. um,
Yeah.
anyway, I don't want to go off
I'm
on too
sorry to
much of a
hear about
tangent.
that.
I'll just start raging about it. So I'll just stop. um, so
Uh,
you and I kind of are new to it all. When did
yeah.
you first get into crypto?
Well, uh, like properly into crypto, I would say this year, but
Hmm.
I've always been interested in crypto since about 2015.
Okay.
But every time I looked at the price to buy in, I would check the charts and see that 5 months earlier it was much cheaper, or like a year later it was much cheaper. So I always
Yeah.
feel like, damn it, I missed the boat. I should have bought 2 years ago.
Hmm.
And then I did buy one Ethereum in 2016,
Hmm.
and then I transferred it for 720 Tezos, like the
Hmm.
Tezos blockchain. They were doing
Hmm.
the ICO, and I didn't know that they were going to lock up my Tezos for years. So
Hmm.
they locked it up for years. I had a paper wallet, and I just forgot about it. I forgot about it until this year when the big market crash happened
Hmm.
and the COVID thing, like the COVID market crash. You saw the stock market fall, and then you saw Bitcoin fall, and all the altcoins fall. And I thought to myself, well, look, this is as close as I'm going to get to buying 2 years ago or 3 years ago. This is like as close to bottom as you can get.
Hmm.
And so I started I started looking for good projects,
Hmm.
and everything I read about Cardano I liked.
Hmm.
So Cardano was the one that I sort of hedged my bets on. Oh,
Hmm.
no,
Hmm.
that doesn't make sense. But Cardano is the one that I sort of I just backed. I just thought, okay, this one's a good project. And it's also a developing project. While other projects seem to have already been developed, Cardano is still developing. It's still got a lot of stuff to bring into the game.
Hmm.
And I just loved how they approach things.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like they're building before just putting it out there and waiting to see
Yeah.
if it sticks, right? So
Yeah.
it's much stronger. And me being a science and engineer background, that speaks to me
Mm,
more than just like, is it going to work? Let's see if we're lucky. So
yeah.
totally. Um,
Yeah.
so what made you kind of decide to go like the SPO route and not just the delegation route?
That's a good question. It was, it must have been a Kaizen Crypto video that I saw him talking about stake pools,
Hmm.
and then it was maybe the Crypto Crow as well, just talking about it, and I just got interested in it, and
Hmm.
I got in during the Shelly testnet, so I got in about June, and at first I was just like, okay, let me just see what this is like.
Hmm.
Let's see how it goes. And then I just fully got into it. And yeah, and it's just it was sort of like a challenge. It was
Hmm.
something like a challenge, but also for financial reasons as well. I also like thought that like state pools, or if you're mining Bitcoin when at the very beginning and things like that, I think they all have the potential to make some money eventually.
Hmm.
And so like it's just a long building process at the beginning, and then hopefully maybe a year from now it might start to make a lot of money, or something like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I just thought, okay, well, I mean, I, it's also going to be very difficult for people starting a stake pool 2 years from now to get in, and
Hmm.
people starting a stake pool 5 years from now to get in, because there would already be a lot of stake pools. So I thought, okay, well, this seems like something that's just starting up. Let me give it a try and
Hmm.
see what I could do.
No, absolutely. Like, yeah, you're right, because there's going to be an already like established like OG
Mhm.
level, and then
Yeah,
like anybody who comes in afterwards is going to have to compete with those guys, right? Not
yeah,
impossible, but it's just getting in at the beginning and going through that learning curve is definitely
mhm.
to your advantage, right? So
Yeah, and also like when you start off with not much ADA delegated to your pool,
mhm,
and then the way it works is that it's harder for you to mint blocks when you don't have that much ADA.
mhm,
So it makes it more difficult to try and convince a delegator to delegate to your pool rather than them going to a pool that already has a lot of ADA on it. So
yeah.
I think it would be very difficult in the future. Um, but yeah, so I also heard that. I mean, I've watched so many videos of Ada Angel, so I feel like I know you, but we've only just met like an hour ago.
No, it's fine.
Um, I heard that you also went to an international school
Yeah,
in Seoul.
I did.
Uh, How was that experience?
So it's kind of difficult to answer comparatively because I know all
Mhm,
international schools are different, but I went
mhm,
to a military um I want to call it like a DOD, it's a DOD school. So if you're familiar
mhm,
with military, they call it a DOD school, which is Defense Department of Defense. And they just have, it's their schools that are on base on their military installations. So it's like a public school, but it's just run by government um, civilians, you know, so not much different. My parents decided to pull me out of there when I was about a freshman, I think
yeah.
freshman year. So I was there for seventh grade and eighth grade. And then when I was freshman, they decided to pull me out my second semester and put me in the international school because they wanted something more challenging for me. Now,
Mhm,
did I want that? Maybe, maybe not. You know, like
mhm,
I was happy just coasting through school and getting my perfect grades um, and not really having to think about anything. But I can understand as a parent myself now that you want something more for your children, and it's not going to be good for them to not challenge themselves because there's no learning happening.
yeah.
So I can understand their decision. At the time, I was a little resistant because I was like, now I have to work harder. And I
Mhm,
did. I worked really hard. It was a very competitive school.
yeah.
Korea has a very competitive community
Yeah.
and a culture. So
Mhm,
it would, but we had people from all over from, because a lot of the kids that I went to school with, my classmates were embassy children. So
yeah.
there are kids from all of the embassies. And so I have a
Mhm,
great group of friends who I still keep in contact with today who are all over the world because
yeah.
of we went to the school together. And the education was great.
Mhm,
You I did AP classes because I knew I wasn't going to go study abroad. So I didn't do any of the IB program, but
mm,
I think I did get a lot out of it, and it was good for
yeah.
me, even though I didn't want to do it in the beginning. But the curriculum was great, the teachers are great, the community was
Mhm,
great, um, and I have friends forever, so it's great. I
that's
have
good.
more friends from there than I do from my university. So,
Oh
um,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I had a similar thing going to the international school in Suva, where
mhm,
you make friends with people from Europe, you make friends from
mhm,
people from the States, and a lot of people with their yeah, you call them embassy children.
mhm.
Yeah, they're like the ambassadors' kids
Yes.
or things like that from and yeah, it was really good. Like going to an international school and just learning about other people. They were like, I had French class, but I never thought I would ever go to France. I
Mhm,
never thought I'd go to a French speaking place, so I didn't take it that seriously. But I was in France like 10 years ago, and yeah, I wish I just stuck to it. I wish
mhm,
I took that class more seriously.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, when you're in Fiji, you don't think you'd be like in Europe. But I'm in
Yeah.
Europe
No, you never
now.
know.
I'm in Germany, and I'm trying to learn German,
Mhm.
but it's a difficult language for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
But
yeah.
definitely the experience, and I think it's really good for us because we get to see things from a different perspective. We
Mhm.
call it third world culture,
Yeah, third world
because
country culture.
growing up in that kind of environment, you're a lot more open and receptive to other
Hmm.
cultures and other people from other countries. Whereas
Hmm.
if you stay in your zone, in your box, like a lot of my husband's family never have left their state, let alone their city. They're so like boxed in and closed-minded about a lot of things. And so I have a lot of arguments with my husband's parents because they just have zero perspective, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and so he tells me that I need to calm down because they haven't seen the things that I've seen or
Mm.
talked to the people that I've talked to. So I need to go a little lighter on them, So,
Okay. Yeah.
but I have a lot of opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
Okay.
but yeah, he's right. I need to be nicer to them. But when we talk about things like, the COVID stuff or mask
Mm-hmm.
wearing or vaccinations, they
Yeah.
are just so, they only watch what their news shows them, and their media
Yeah.
outlet is so one-sided. It's ridiculous, so
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, that's so like not what we're talking about.
Okay.
um,
We can get back onto Cardano.
oh my gosh, these tangents. I'm known for the tangents. Sorry. Okay. So tell me
Wow.
about what you do for like your day-to-day jobs.
Okay. So I started a business 6 years ago,
Okay.
and I moved back to Tuvalu, which was the country that I was born in,
Mhm.
and I started a beer distribution company.
Okay.
So we import beer from Asia and we wholesale it in Tuvalu.
Mhm.
And like this Christmas period is our biggest month, like our biggest sales month. So we're stoked for it. But yeah, and so that's basically where my income comes from.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what it's allowed me is it's also given me a lot of time, because it's sort of a passive income stream that I've got a lot of time during the week to sort of focus on other projects.
Mhm.
And the project that I've been focusing on since 2016 was a feature film.
Mhm.
So it's a feature film that I developed, and I shot it in Fiji last year.
Mhm.
And it's a boxing movie set in the capital of Fiji.
Mhm.
And I'm currently editing it at the moment, but it's I looked it up, and it's actually considered a micro budget film, because it didn't cost like that much, and it was just my savings, so it
Mhm.
wasn't like I could put in a lot of money into it anyway. And yeah, and so I'm working on that, and also the Cardano stake pool,
Mhm.
as well as sort of keeping tabs on the business in Tuvalu,
Mhm.
and things like that. I hear you also, you and well, Alexandra, your co-host from before, like you
Mhm.
both were business
Mhm.
orientated, and you both started your own businesses, and so there's like we have that in common as well.
Yeah. No, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely have always been a more entrepreneur type of person.
Hmm.
And so, especially when I moved back to Korea after university, that was the time of the 2009 US, like a lot of budget freezes. Like there
Yeah.
was, so my husband got hired on, and I was slotted for a position as a US contractor, but I didn't get
Hmm.
it. So I had my clearance and I was all ready to go. But then they cut the job because of budget. So I was like, okay, so then I was just kind of no job. And I was like, well, what do I do now? So I just made up a job for myself. So
Nice.
I basically have always had a passion for photography and art.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I watched more videos, more podcasts, more
Hmm.
everything to kind of learn how to do Photoshop more effectively. And
Yeah.
then edit photos, like batch editing different styles and developing my own style. And so
Yeah.
then I was like, I'm now a portrait photographer. So portrait photography,
Nice.
maternity, and newborn, which are special niches in the field. So
Nice. Nice.
I would do those. I did it for several years. I still kind
Hmm.
of do it, but just not as much because I want to focus on like other things, but I'll still do it on an appointment basis for people who want me to do it. And like I have all the studio equipment and everything. So
Hmm.
but then I also have like the Amazon thing that I do, which was a really steep learning curve. There's not really a lot of information to teach you how to do that.
Yeah.
But like me and a friend were like talking about it, and we're like, oh yeah, that seems like it's good, but it's hard actually to like have contacts with um, suppliers in
Suppliers.
China and things like that. It's
Yeah.
hard. The barrier of communication is difficult, and
Yeah.
finding the right product that's going to be popular, and it's a whole
Hmm.
thing. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. And then like, but my main thing right now is nutrition, and it has been for several years. But
Hmm.
I teach people about wellness and nutrition. And
Nice.
so my husband and I used to be kind of like more ignorant to it all. Like we're like, oh, it's fine. We're not that overweight. We don't eat that bad. And that's where like the majority of people are. Like they don't think that they're that bad until they
Hmm.
realize that they are.
Yeah.
And so it kind of hit me after I had my first kid that I had
Hmm.
a little bit more weight than I wanted. Um, And so I tried to do different programs, and I know from my biology background that these are not going to work. These are just like temporary fad type things. And so I was looking for something that would work, and I found a program that is like scientifically backed, and it works, and it does. It does. And so I'm trying now to kind of break away from the company umbrella and start my own like nutrition like LLC type thing, because I'm getting a
Yeah.
master's in nutrition as well. And so once I do that, I can still use all the things that I studied and learned from doing the program myself, using my own experiences and my husband's experience and all the people that I trained, and then also start my own nutrition type business as well. So that's in the motion of being built. I can do it right now if I want to. I just want the master's as more accreditation to me.
Oh, yeah.
And then
That's cool.
what else do I
Cool.
do? I
Good
do
luck.
so many things. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
What else did I say did I do? Yeah, I
Um,
can't remember. I don't know. There's a whole thing. I kind of I
yeah.
have it all in my calendar of like what I do this day and what I do this day and
Mhm.
all the things. So it's
That
kind of
that Amazon business that you've got,
mhm.
I also considered doing that. Like I saw it and I thought, okay, that would be a good way. But it was also one of those things that I was like, oh man, maybe I should have done this 2 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
it feels like it's harder to do it now than it would have been 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I
When did you
definitely
start it?
agree. Because if you look at a lot of the literature that's out there about it, it's kind of like we missed the boat a little when it was
Yeah.
really like coming into like Amazon was expanding into third party
Mhm.
businesses. That's when it would have been good to get in. But I didn't even know that was a thing. And then
Yeah.
after, like you say, after the 2 years, it's kind of like now everyone's getting in like after the fact. It's kind of like when
Mhm.
people are going to get in 2 3 years after K goes to like 1,000, right? Like those
Yeah,
people
exactly.
is me
Yeah.
right now. So it's
Oh.
like,
But
um,
yeah, it's the same thing with this. Like it feels like you and I started this thing. Well, I mean, we didn't start at the very beginning. I think the
mhm,
ITN, the ITN definitely was the very beginning,
mhm.
but we still got in at just, at the launch of Shelly.
Yeah,
So that's also pretty early.
yeah, yeah,
And hopefully it becomes like something profitable and good in the next 2 or 3 years.
yeah, totally.
Um, yeah,
So like,
I'm excited for it. Yeah.
what are some challenges that you've run into since starting your state pool?
Um, well, the first challenge was learning Linux command line,
Mm-hmm,
but once you get over that, it actually becomes quite easy to use.
mm-hmm,
But I also ran into problems where we had a spoof pool using our ticker.
mm-hmm,
So our ticker is Astra,
mm-hmm,
and there was a spoof pool that was made called Astra, and this spoof pool came up just like the day after we started heavily promoting our pool.
mm-hmm,
And this pool, it confused a lot of my delegators. I got messages from people saying, hey, there's two Astra pools, which one should I delegate to? Or I
mm-hmm.
delegated to both. And the other Astra pool it wasn't minting any blocks. Like if you check the stats online, both of its relays are offline,
Mm-hmm.
and its pledge was only 8K. And it was yeah, I just don't, it wasn't a real pool.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a long time before IOHK could help me with their Smash servers and
Mm-hmm.
be able to hide that pool from Daedalus. So
Mm-hmm.
if you go in Daedalus now, and you search Astra, there's only my pool that shows up for the ticker Astra. But when that spoof pool was there, um, I feel sorry for the delegators that went there. At the moment, there's nobody delegating to that pool anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So all the Astra delegators are delegating to my pool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was. I just felt sorry for these guys who wanted to maybe delegate to my pool but got
Yeah.
confused and delegated to the spoof pool. And yeah, that's why I'm really happy for Ben O'Hanlon
Yeah.
and Carlos, and their Smash server setup. They've
Mm-hmm.
managed to help me in that way to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of that place. And it was difficult too because I saw so many pools just promoting themselves by using their ticker, like
Yes.
this is my ticker, and we couldn't do that because we had to be like, this is our ticker, but check our pool ID and make sure
Yes.
it's this
Yep.
and things like that. And so that was a bit complicated, but I'm glad that now I can just say, well, we're at Astra Stake Pool and our ticker's Astra and things
Yeah.
like that without confusing people.
Yeah. So I was definitely going to
And
say that as a
Mhm.
tip, because I think that it's not the first time and it's not going to be the last time
Yeah.
I mean, we can say that, you know, flattery is, you know, the best compliment and all that with the copying and all that kind of stuff, but you know, it's not cool.
Mm,
So, but the best way to do it is just to stay connected to your delegators. And when you're promoting yourself, make sure that, you know, you just match up that pool ID to your ticker. It's an extra
yeah,
step, but you know, it helps. It's
it's
that confusion for the people who are like, there's two of you, which one do I go to? Just check the
yeah,
pool ID. There's just no mistaking it, you know.
yeah. And
Um,
then just like recently, well, not recently, but like a month and a half ago, they gave us two pool IDs. So remember when we only had one pool ID,
yeah.
and now in Daedalus they've got a second pool ID. It begins with pool, and then it
Okay.
has a string of numbers. Whereas before it was just a string of numbers. So there's kind of like two pool IDs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you go to Ada Pools and you look at your pool ID, it'll show you your main pool ID, and then in brackets it'll show you the pool ID that shows up on Daedalus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm still not sure how to pronounce these terms. I mean, I just read about them,
No, I say
Daedalus, and
Daedalus also.
do you
Yeah.
say Ada or Ada?
I say Ada.
Ada, yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard some people say Ada, and
Yeah.
then
I
some
think it
people
just
just say
depends on where
ADA.
you're from. I don't think that there's a
Mm,
right or a wrong way.
yeah, true.
But some people say ADA. Like they don't even
Yeah,
say
some
Ada
people
or
say
Ada.
ADA.
So, um,
Yeah.
so that's cool. What about positive experiences? Like, do you have
Positive.
positive? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's lots of positive experiences in terms of the support from the SPO community.
Mm-hmm.
There's like if I have I mean, I learned a lot and I didn't pay anybody to learn those things.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people coming up to me because I made a tutorial video on how to set up a stake pool. That's a bit outdated now, but they would come up to me and they'll say things like, you know, we'll pay you to help me. And I would be like, no. There's no need to pay anybody to do this. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many free stuff out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the SBOs that know how to do it now, they basically didn't pay to learn about that. They
Mm-hmm.
learned from other people. And so yeah, I wouldn't charge anybody to do anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, just the community, the SBO community, just everybody helping each other. If you have a problem, I've got a great work group that I can go to, and somebody else like Liev has had that problem before and can help me, and vice versa. So yeah, that's my positive experience, just the
Yeah.
community.
No, I totally agree. Like I love that work group, the Telegram group, and I use that search function a lot. Like before I
Yeah,
even ask the question, because
yeah.
like I don't want them to be annoyed if I've already asked or somebody else has asked
Mhm.
this question. So I definitely use that search function a lot.
Yeah, me
And
too.
like 9 times out of 10, I can find my answers.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people are great. There's nobody
Mhm.
who's like thinks that they're above it all, you know. So it's really great.
Well, one new thing that happened with my pool is that I recently made the decision to lower the pledge, to decrease the pledge.
Mhm.
And I just want to communicate if there's any of my delegators watching this, just that like I'm still very much dedicated to my pool and still
Mhm.
very much dedicated to Cardano and to making videos and to maintaining the pool. It's just that I think I overextended myself with the pledge, especially when you hear news about other stake pool operators having their pledge stolen.
Mhm.
Because if you're a delegator and you're delegating from your Daedalus wallet or your Uroi wallet, it's pretty secure. Like
Mhm.
there's no way that the stake pool can lose your ADA.
Mhm.
But for stake pool operators, their pledge has to be held in a wallet that's on the node. And I think that as the value of ADA gets higher and higher, I think there'll
Mhm.
be more people, like they'll be incentivized to try and steal more pledge.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to have that worry. It was very difficult for me to sleep at night because I was worrying about that
Oh,
stuff.
sure.
So I lowered the pledge from it was like 500,000 and I lowered it to 50,000.
Mhm.
And like to me, 50,008 is still a lot of money.
Mhm.
And my original idea when I set it up was to start with, was to have it 50,000.
Mhm.
But I saw so many pools start to raise their pledge
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I felt pressured to raise my pledge. So I raised mine to 200, and then I raised mine to 500.
Mhm.
And then I heard about, and I would hear stories about their people's pledge being taken. And then there was one recent, I won't name the pool, but he got over 600K
Yeah.
stolen from his pledge just a few days ago. and he wrote a Telegram thing about it, and it
Yeah.
just struck a chord with me. It was just like, yeah, I mean, if I lose 500K ADA, like that's all my savings, you know, so I would be devastated. And so I reduced it to 50K, and I'm still staking on my same pool
Yeah, sure.
just from the security of my dataless wallet.
So you hopefully you've taken the proper steps to do so, because similar happened to another pool. We don't have to name the names, but you know about it, right? So the proper steps to take for lowering your pledge. Increasing is no problem. Lowering is a little bit trickier. So
I learned from that other pool's mistake, and I won't name his pool, but I also thank that pool for sharing that, because because it's an easy mistake to make, and without that person sharing that story, it would have been difficult for me to look out for it. But basically, you have to lower the pledge on one epoch, and then just wait until the start of the new epoch to transfer the difference. So that's what I did.
The snapshot timing is definitely important, because that's when your pull cert is registered. So that it has to match. Like when it's registered, your pledge has to match, and then when it turns over, it's okay to take it. It's okay to take it down and re-register that amount, but don't do it the opposite way. Don't register it and then take it, because at the end, when they do the second snapshot, it doesn't match up. It's going to be a problem.
The amount in your wallet has to cover your pledge at the beginning of the epoch. So it's I changed mine with like an hour to go, and then I transferred it with like 20 minutes after the snapshot. So
so you should be safe. But that was definitely like eye-opening as well, because like you say, it's really easy with the timing thing, trickier to go down. So but great. I think it's definitely understandable. So I don't think anyone would hold it against you. Do you have like communication with your pool, like a channel or something like that, where they can talk to you and you can give these announcements?
I've got a Telegram group. I've got a Twitter account, but I mean, the Telegram, not really. Like, I'll just answer it that way. Not really, because I've got a lot more delegators than I have on my Telegram account. So it's not like I can communicate to all of them at one time.
So the good news is I do believe that I was talking with Umid on another show, that he and the team are trying to implement a communication method through Pool Tool, that you can communicate still, keeping all identities and wallets like private, but you will be able to communicate to them effectively, right? And they don't have to go to your third-party channels and things to get announcements from you. They can just get it. If you're delegated, you're going to get the message, right? So that'll be really cool when that happens. But in the meantime, like through your Twitter or whatever, it'd be good to follow your pool operator is the best way to get your information. So people who are following Astra, get in on that channel. You know, send me your link. I'll add it to the description.
Thanks. Thank you. I just learned Twitter. Like I'd never tweeted before ever, and then I learned Twitter for this thing. My first 3 weeks was,
it'll say on my account that I had it since like 2009, but I never touched it. I got it because of something told me I needed a Twitter account to access something, so that's why I opened it, but never used it until this. So it's definitely like a Cardano only media.
Me too. And my first month, I was just absolutely ridiculous at Twitter. I was using it wrong. I was just like shouting all the time about my pool. You know, it was just yada 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 pool, and I kept tagging everybody. I didn't know how to use it, and then I kept tagging ADA pools, and I think the ADA pools guy blocked me because I tagged him too much. And then I just started. I had to read about Twitter. Like I had to read about it and read what you're supposed to do and what not to do and things like that. And I thought, oh man. So I contacted the ADA pool guy on Telegram, and I said, hey man, look, could you unblock me? I've now learned how to do Twitter. Like I've learned what to do, and I'm not going to tag you crazy or anything like that. And so he unblocked me, and now we're Twitter friends again. But yeah, like it was a learning curve. And then there's so many other platforms. Like Twitter's one, I think Reddit's another one, but I've never. I opened up a Reddit thing last week, but I've never used it before. Don't really quite know how it works. And then there's or Facebook, but I don't think anybody's really on Facebook much
So I'm
anymore.
on Facebook. There's a few people on Facebook. There's not a big thing on Facebook. There's a couple of
Yeah.
groups. The moderators are hardcore, like they are on Reddit, where you can't like advertise your pool, you can't see your name and like all that kind of stuff. So there's the like
Okay.
official Cardano Facebook, and then there's like the
Yeah.
stake pool operator Facebook. So there's different rules for each. So just read them carefully,
Yeah.
because like I've talked to the different admins, the different moderators, and I'm just like, it's so ridiculous how locked down this is. Like, how are we supposed to talk if we can't talk about ourselves, you know?
Mhm.
And they're just like, it's just the way it is because it's not fair that you advertise. And I'm like, whatever, you know? So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
okay. But
hard. It's
the biggest thing that I do,
Mhm.
because I answer questions, I'll answer questions on Reddit. I had to learn Reddit too. But I'll
Yeah.
answer people's questions. There's more questions on Facebook than there is on Twitter. Reddit
Okay.
has a lot of questions too. So I like to just go and answer people's questions. And surprisingly, there's a lot of the same questions like over and
Mhm.
over again. Like, how do I get ADA? How do I
Mhm.
stake ADA? Like that, those
Yeah.
questions. I should just make like an infographic, just like paste,
Yeah.
like just do it.
Yeah.
Alex did. Alex made a how to delegate infographic. It's cute.
Nice.
But yeah, I just answer them, and and then they'll have follow-up questions too. So I mean, that's just the best way that I get to know people. They just answer their
Yeah.
questions. So
Your Deadpool name's the best name. It's the best name on the Cardano thing.
thank you.
Deadpool.
I get mixed responses. I've got a few that are like, why is your name Dead? That makes no sense. And I was like, but did you say the whole name? You know? They're just like, oh, I get it now. Okay. So
Do you see the icon? Don't you see the logo?
yep, don't you see
It's
it? It's right
Deadpool.
there.
It's on Marvel.
I have
Yeah.
one that I've gotten communication from recently that it confused him because he's new to Daedalus, and so he sees that the transaction history basically says like undelegated and then delegated to dead. And so
Mm.
he thinks he's undelegated. I'm like, no, you're a
Ah,
new wallet. So you say
yeah.
status undelegated to status delegated to dead.
Mhm.
And he says, but
Yeah.
your name is Dead. So is your pool dead or is it
Yeah.
active? I'm like, no, my pool's name is Deadpool. You know, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's on. I see your delegation has come in. I screenshot him on Pool Tools,
Yeah.
and I screenshot him on
Mhm.
pool.pm. I said, it's there. Just relax.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Mhm.
You know, and he's like, but it says undelegated. I'm like, okay, you're going to be fine. When the epoch turns over, it'll be your new transaction history will just be delegated. You know, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
these are the
And
type of
that.
questions because again, Daedalus isn't the most friendly UI, you know, but
Mhm.
and it's a little confusing. And then I can understand my name is a little confusing. It's Dead, but it's like, it's
Yeah.
fine. But I
It,
think it's nice. I'll keep using it until Disney tells me not to.
did it used to be? Did it used to be something else?
It did. It used to
It was
be
Giles or.
Jaws,
Mm.
JALZ. My domain name, I haven't changed it yet. I'm lazy there. I haven't worked on my website for a while, which I probably should. But it's basically the first letter of my family's names. So my husband,
Okay.
mine,
Yeah.
my son, and my daughter. And I have that as my LLC name for my Amazon. So at the
Mm.
time, I didn't realize how significant your ticker name is. So when I
Yeah.
was told to create a ticker name, I asked my husband, like, what do I name the ticker name? I don't know what the significance of that is. He's like, I don't really think it matters. And I'm like, okay. So I just used a name that I already had and I didn't have to create a new name. And then I realized after being in the community a little while and kind of seeing the patterns of other people and what they were doing, I was like, there's a thing to the ticker name, you know, and like
Yeah.
your full name, it's a thing. It's representative of you, you know, it's not just a random thing. So I'm like, I need a new name. So
Yeah.
I came up with that name and I was really surprised that someone didn't have it. Later on, I was contacted by someone who was running a pool in the ITN whose name was Deadpool, and he
Mm.
offered me his website name because he was going to
Oh.
be retiring it or the domain was coming available.
Yeah.
So he's like, you can have it if you want. And I said, oh, that's so sweet, you know, but I don't know if I'm going to take it because I'll probably just rename my current website. But yeah, that was nice. I didn't know that there was another Deadpool. But
Yeah. The ticker is very, very important. That's why it was so annoying when there was a spoof pool with our ticker. And they seem to be spoofing other pools. I don't know why they chose my pool because my pool wasn't very big or anything like that. It's not like Digital Fortress or anything like that, but like I know Digi5 is the most spoofed ticker out there. They've made so many spoof pools for Digi5.
I think Digi3 was the first one, like a fake one.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then Bloom started getting spoof ones too.
Yeah.
I didn't really.
Yeah.
There's probably others, but those are the most prominent ones that I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crappy for people to do that. I was just complaining to my husband earlier today that like I just don't understand why people do things like that, like malicious things. Like why, you know?
Yeah, like that thing with Alex's pool, where a delegated 20 million.
It's not just her. Have you watched
not just her.
his history? The 20 mil whale. Did you watch him
Oh,
go from
I have.
previous pool to previous pool? It's like when they're right on the brink of saturation, he'll just splash down
Yeah.
into their pool, and it's like so rude.
Yeah.
So
I
and
just
then
know that he's
Joy
gone to
Pool.
Joy
Joy
Pool.
Pool is
Yeah.
actually a Korean pool. It's operated by a Korean
Yeah.
SPO, and like I saw his channel like blow up. Like, oh my gosh, we just got this 20 million guy. Like, we really appreciate you, but can you please leave? You know, like yeah. Like I don't know. It's like we have these debates about it. Like, is it someone who actually doesn't know what they're doing, or is it malicious? You know, so I don't know.
I think it's malicious if there's a pattern, you know, if that person's been doing it like to several other pools.
Definitely we're leaning towards malicious now with how many times he's done it, you know. So
but it baffles me because like the guy has 20 million ADA. I mean, if I had 20 million ADA, I wouldn't care, you know. I would just delegate to a smaller pool and then just sort of or split it into like 5 million, like 4 pools, and
there's so many things that you could do.
You're
why
rich.
are you doing this? You know, like why? So and then like I don't know. I can't even come up with reasons why. So it doesn't make any sense. It's a lose-lose. Like why are you doing this to yourself and to the pool? So
yeah.
So but yeah, like I think that we've had great conversation. I want to ask you though, because you're a filmmaker and you have like all of these things, like what are you most passionate about right now?
Well, it's this feature film that I'm making. I'm very passionate about this one because it's because I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 13 and I'm 34 now. And so it got to a stage where it was like, okay, well, either you're going to be a filmmaker or you're not going to be a filmmaker. And I have my whole identity wrapped around being a filmmaker. So in 2016, once the business in Tuvalu was set up and running and earning me a passive income, not like a huge amount, but still enough for me to get by. I just thought, okay, well, this is the time. You know, this is the time to focus on setting up on actually trying to make a feature film. Like I know so many filmmaker friends of mine who will likely not make a feature film because they make the mistake of holding on to an idea that is too expensive to make. Like I have ideas that I want to make, but they're too expensive. Like, you know, I've got a World War II movie idea, too expensive. I'm not going to get the budget to make a World War II movie. So you just sort of have to focus on what it is that you can make with the budget that you have, with the resources that you have, and then just sort of like go to where your strengths are. So I made a list of like things that were my strengths in a way. And one of them was to set the movie in a place that I know. Like I set the movie in Suva because that's where I know. I mean, I would be completely disadvantaged if I tried to set a movie in Korea, you know, because I don't know Korea. I don't know the language. I don't know the culture. I would be, and I'd have to pay for hotels everywhere. I don't know. It would just be too expensive. And so I set the movie in Suva, and I had all these other rules to try and keep the budget low. And then after I had this list of rules to keep the budget low, I challenged myself to come up with a film idea that fit those rules once a day for 10 days. So by the end of the process, I had these 10 ideas that were doable, 10 ideas that I could do within my budget. And I just selected my favorite one and I developed that one into the movie that I'm working on right now. And so it's a boxing movie. It's set in the capital of Fiji. When it gets released, and I'm planning to release it in cinemas, I mean, a really long time from now, in 2023 in Fiji, it will be 19 years since the previous film, local Fijian film. So the last local Fijian film was in 2004.
Mhm.
So yeah, we don't make that many films in Fiji.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of Hollywood movies that get made in Fiji.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
there's this, I don't know, like Fright Island or something. I can't remember what it was, but some sort of like Fantasy Island. It was called Fantasy Island. That was shot
Mhm.
in Fiji. Um, I mean, a long time ago, Anacondas was Anacondas. Anacondas.
Anaconda, like the
Anyway,
giant snake.
yeah, the giant snake,
Yeah.
like the sequel to the J-Lo movie, that was shot
Okay.
in Fiji,
Okay.
and yeah, and things like that. You know, you've got that movie recently, Adrift, a few years ago now. It has Shailene Woodley in it,
So I
and
know the name. Don't hate me. Remember, I don't watch TV, so I don't really watch
oh
a lot of
yeah,
movies either.
but yeah, Shailene Woodley,
Mhm.
well, she's a star from Hollywood, and then
Mhm.
she made a movie in Fiji called Adrift.
Mhm.
um, and then she started dating a Fijian rugby player. So he was famous for a little while for dating Shailene Woodley. It was a big
Mhm.
thing. Um, and yeah, so that's it. That's my biggest passion at the moment. I mean, I'm also very passionate about the Cardano stake
Of
pool.
course, yes.
Um, and I've gotten so into ADA, like Cardano. It's just so interesting.
Mhm.
Just recently, Charles released how they plan to use oracles,
Mhm.
and it's just such a Did you watch that video? I think it came out yesterday. It
I didn't
just
probably watch all of it yet. I watched them in bits as the children interrupt me. So, so.
Basically they're going to tap into Wolfram Alpha,
Mhm.
which is this application that has so much information, and then also tap into AGI, Singularity Net, and
Mhm.
then so the combination of those two, and they can still use things like Chainlink.
Mhm.
So they'll be getting data streams from everywhere, and it goes through stake pool. I didn't get that last bit, but it goes through stake pool operators somehow
Mhm.
to get onto the network. But it's all just very exciting. It's just it's so
It's so
weird.
interesting, like how they're building it. They're making these
Hmm.
partnerships. They're making it so that their interoperability is just going to be
Hmm.
super strong. Like they're doing
Yeah.
this building so that it will work and not just like
Hmm.
um want like make any sort of weak links. They're making
Hmm.
it strong, and that's really cool. Um,
And what I like about it is that when they do get these partners to come on, it's like what these partners do, now Cardano can do. And
mhm.
what Cardano can do, now these partners can do as well.
Yes.
So it's like they're taking the strengths from all their partners
Hmm.
and making Cardano stronger
Yeah.
for having these partnerships. And
Right.
I think that's just, and we haven't even launched Gogan yet.
Right.
So
Right.
imagine a year after the launch of Gogan and how many partners and how many different things will be on the network, and how refined it will be.
Mhm.
It's really amazing to see what's happening with Cardano. I'm glad that I chose Cardano in March or April
Yeah.
to be the one.
No, I
Um,
agree. Like we've invested quite a bit into it.
mm,
And I'm usually really skeptical about these things. I'm not a gambler. That's
mm,
not really my thing. Um, the just being a girl, girls are a little bit more hesitant to do big investments just as a stereotype,
mm,
but it's
yeah,
true for we do more research and not just do gut feeling type of things. But
yeah,
I did my research and I looked at it and it looks solid, so
yeah,
and they're continuously building things in parallel, not just like one thing at a time, so we have to wait forever.
yeah,
And then they're branching out with these partnerships that's only going to make it stronger.
yeah.
They accept that there's not going to be like one thing that's going to like rule them all, which is
Hmm.
like a downfall for many things. Like we're going to be the best. No, we can share. There's plenty to go around, and we can help
Yeah,
each other. So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's really cool, and we're gonna do good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and the fact that they've written like 91 papers and they
Yes.
submit a lot of them for peer review,
Hmm.
and they just sort of get it right before they even implement it in the blockchain. I was reading about ETH 2.0 the other day, and
Hmm.
it's very complicated what they're doing. To secure the network, you need to transfer ETH1 tokens to ETH2 tokens, and then you have to just sort of stake them for a period of, you got to lock them in for a period of at
Hmm.
least 18 months.
Hmm.
And 18 months in the crypto land is like years, you know,
Yeah,
like
sure.
the price of ETH could go up
It's an
like to the moon.
eternity. It's
Yeah,
forever. A lot can happen. But I
a
mean, I
lot can
think
happen.
Charles mentioned it in one of his videos that like
Mm,
they have those weaknesses that Cardano has already kind of told that that's what they're trying to avoid, or they're trying to build because they know where the weaknesses are, right? And so
yeah,
instead of them knowing that in the beginning,
yeah,
they are now compensating for it on the back end and trying to, you know, say it again, compensate for it, but they're
yeah.
doing it in this way, which it's going to be slower and it's still not going to be able to be better, you know,
And
than
it's
like,
so complicated too.
yes.
It's so complicated. They're trying to like the whole reason for moving to ETH 2.0, apart from energy being more energy efficient, is so that they can scale. But they're
Mhm.
also putting in energy to finding layer 2 scaling solutions for ETH 1.0.
Yeah.
So they're putting energy into two of these things to solve the problem of scaling.
Mhm.
Whereas Cardano doesn't even have, like, that's wasted energy. It's wasted energy looking at ETH 1.0 scaling if you're going to port everything over to ETH
Sure.
2.0.
Sure.
So it's yeah, it's very complicated. Whereas Cardano's very streamlined. They
Mhm.
know, okay, we're going to have it as a proof of stake thing. We're going to
Mhm.
try and build around Ouroboros, and we're going to just, I don't know. They
Yeah.
just they seem like they're doing things properly to build
Yeah.
a
Well, it's because
blockchain.
I think they're learning from other mistakes as well.
Mm,
And he said before that he told them that this would happen. And so they, you know, whatever. And so when he
mhm.
decided to do this, he knows the problems that they have to overcome. And so they've designed it this way, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then like the other question that I get a lot is because we use the word or the term fork for these
Yeah.
upgrades, they're afraid. The delegators or the people are afraid because they know about the Bitcoin fork. They know about
Yeah.
the ETH going to 2.0, that split. They're like, what do we have to do to prepare for this? And I'm like, no, you don't have to do anything. We got
Yeah.
this, you know? So yeah, no, the smoothness is just awesome. Like, don't worry about it, you know? We have to worry about it, and I'll take care of my node. You just stay put. It's all good, you know? So it's like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
um,
Um, but
but
yeah,
yeah,
thanks so much for having me on this episode. And I
of
know it's
course.
a busy period, being the weekend before Christmas. And yeah, it was really. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Oh no,
Like,
don't
thank you.
worry, don't worry. Like I was telling before, like I was just playing cards with the kids because they're getting a little
Mhm.
stir crazy with being inside
Yeah.
all the time. So I lost track of time. But yeah, I love meeting new people. It was a pleasure meeting you. And like I think that your videos are amazing. I watched a few of them, and like I
Oh,
look forward to seeing more. And I hope that I can see your boxing film.
oh, thank you. Thanks. And I really like what you're doing too. You're sort of like connecting the community
Mm,
together. You're meeting all these SBOs and you're talking to them, and it feels like I get to know these other SBOs through you,
exactly.
like the Grow Pool, and also Buffy Pool.
Mhm.
They seem like really nice people, and yeah, and so I thank you for what you're doing with the community as well.
Thank you.
And yeah, and it was really great meeting you as well.
You as well, yeah. And we'll have you on again as, another guest. Maybe you could show me another video, or if
Okay.
you have more projects that you want to share, then we'll talk about that as well next time. So,
Okay.
all right, well, it's
No worries.
great.
Thank you,
And thank you
Amanda.
guys for watching, and we'll see you on our next episode. Okay, bye.